He wasn't just a goal scorer. He wasn't just a Rangers legend. He was the man who stayed when the club he loved collapsed around him. In a world where footballers chase contracts and managers flee sinking ships, Ally McCoist did something rare. He stood still. Not because it was easy, but because loyalty meant more than legacy. Before the touchline sagas, before the boardroom chaos, before the chants turned into questions, he was Super Ally, the man who lit up Ibrox, the finisher with a grin, the heartbeat of a generation. But this story isn't just about goals. It's about pressure. It's about principle. It's about what happens when a legend is forced to become a shield, carrying a broken club on his shoulders. Ally McCoist didn't just serve Rangers. He protected it through its darkest storm. And for that, he became something rarer than a champion. He became the soul of a club. Subscribe if you believe football still needs men like Ally McCoist. Men who stay, men who carry, men who never run. Before the stadiums, before the goals, before the name Super Ally echoed across Ibrox. There was a boy from Bells Hill, born on September 24th, 1962. Raised in East Kilbride, Scotland, not in glory, but in grit. He wasn't a prodigy sent to an academy at age 7. He was just a lad who kicked a ball through puddles, played until the streetlights flicked on, and worked behind a desk before the world knew his name. His first job? A clerical assistant at the Overseas Development Agency, paperwork by day, football by heart. But even then, something burned brighter. He played youth football at Fir Park Boys Club, humble fields, muddy boots, sharp instincts. At 14, fate knocked early, when a man named Sir Alex Ferguson picked him up from school and brought him to St Mirren. The future Manchester United legend saw something. McCoist trained, impressed, but he wasn't signed. Not yet. That door closed. But he didn't stop walking. In 1978, he signed his first professional contract with St Johnstone. No headlines, no pressure, just a chance. And Ally took it. By April 1979, he made his first team debut. By 1981, he had scored 23 goals in 43 games. Quietly, he was becoming a force, and the right people noticed. His next move would take him south, into the fire. In 1981, Ally McCoist was signed by Sunderland for £400,000, a club record fee. He was only 19, a Scottish boy sent into the brutal heart of England's First Division. The pressure was instant. The fans expected goals. The club needed a hero. But instead came silence. He battled hard, trained harder. But form slipped, confidence cracked. He scored just 8 goals in 65 appearances. And whispers began. Is he good enough? Overrated? Too soft for English football? He had moments, like 5 goals in 5 games during the 1982-83 season, flashes of the genius that would later define him. But the system didn't suit him, and the critics didn't wait. By 1983, many had written him off. But that's the thing about Ally McCoist. He never needed the world to believe in him. He just needed one club, one chance, one door to open. And when it did, everything changed. That door was Rangers. In 1983, Ally McCoist returned to Scotland, not to retreat, but to rise. Signed by Rangers for £185,000, he arrived at Ibrox with doubt trailing him. But doubt never stood a chance, because this wasn't just a new club. This was home. And what he gave them was history. Over the next 15 years, McCoist became a force of nature. 581 appearances, a staggering 355 goals. No player has scored more in a Rangers shirt, ever. They called him Super Ally, not just because he scored, but because he did it with joy. He smiled through pressure, he joked through chaos, and he delivered over and over again. He helped Rangers lift 9 Scottish League titles, 9 League Cups, one Scottish Cup. He didn't just win, he defined the golden era of Rangers in the 80s and 90s. In 1992 and 1993, he became one of the few British players to win the European Golden Shoe back-to-back. That's not just great, that's world class. And for his country, he earned 61 caps and scored 19 goals for Scotland. One of them, a curling finish against Switzerland at Euro 92, is still played in highlight reels with goosebumps attached. In every sense, Ally McCoist had arrived. But even in glory, he never changed. He laughed, he worked, he loved, and Rangers loved him back. This wasn't just a career, it was a love affair, and it was only getting started. Behind every great player, there's a force that shapes them. For Ally McCoist, that force was Walter Smith. Their relationship wasn't just professional, it was familial. A bond forged not in boardrooms, but in battles. One man on the touchline, the other on the pitch, and together they made Rangers unbeatable. Under Smith's leadership, McCoist didn't just score, he became a leader. A voice in the dressing room, a presence in the city, a man trusted to carry the club's heartbeat. They navigated title after title, lifting Rangers to dominance in Scottish football. When the pressure mounted, Smith steadied the ship. When doubt crept in, McCoist answered with goals. And through it all, there was loyalty, respect, love. Years later, when Walter Smith returned to Rangers in 2007, he didn't return alone. McCoist came too, not as a striker, but as his assistant manager. The warrior had become the apprentice, the pupil now ready to learn a different kind of leadership. And in that transition, something sacred was passed on. Not just tactics, but trust, the DNA of Rangers. This wasn't just coaching. This was the beginning of a handover between two men who had given their lives to one club. And soon, McCoist would be asked to lead on his own. But not in triumph, in chaos. While he was breaking records on the pitch, Ally McCoist was doing something else rare. He was becoming a household name beyond football. In 1996, he joined the BBC quiz show A Question of Sport as team captain. Over 11 years and 363 episodes, he wasn't just answering questions, he was winning hearts. Quick with a smile, quicker with a joke. Whether it was banter with Sue Barker or trading punches with his rival captain, McCoist became a symbol of Scottish warmth and sporting humour. He wasn't just loved by Rangers fans anymore, he was loved by everyone. He went on to co-host McCoist and Macaulay, a radio show that mixed late-night laughs with thoughtful reflection. But behind the charm was the same man from Bellshill, grounded, loyal, never too big for anyone. And in 1994, his country recognized it. He was awarded the MBE for services to football, one of the game's highest honors. By the late 1990s, he had transcended football. He was a hero, a personality, a man who represented Scotland's soul. But football wasn't done with him yet, because the club he gave everything to was about to need him more than ever. By the early 2000s, McCoist had done it all as a player, but the pull of Rangers never left him. In 2004, he joined the Scotland national team's coaching staff, working under his old mentor, Walter Smith. Loyalty, once again, shaped his path. He even turned down the chance to manage Inverness Caledonian Thistle, not because he lacked ambition, but because he refused to move his children away from Glasgow. Family first, always. Then came the call that brought him home. In 2007, Walter Smith returned to Rangers, and McCoist returned with him as assistant manager. It was no token appointment, it was preparation, apprenticeship, a passing of the torch. They led Rangers to domestic glory. And in 2008 came heartbreak, the UEFA Cup final, a dream run that ended in defeat to Zenit St Petersburg. But for McCoist, the seeds were planted. He wasn't just learning tactics, he was learning how to carry a club. And when Walter Smith retired in 2011, Rangers didn't look abroad. They didn't go for glamour. They handed the reins to their son, To the man who knew Ibrox better than anyone alive, Ally McCoist became manager of Rangers Football Club. The club was still huge, the expectations still towering, the badge still heavy. But no one, not McCoist, not the fans, could have imagined what was coming. Because within months, Rangers would fall. In 2012, disaster struck. Rangers, one of the most storied clubs in world football, entered administration. Mounting debts, boardroom chaos, a 10-point deduction. Then, liquidation. A club built on 140 years of history was torn down in months. And while others fled, players, executives, investors, Ally McCoist stayed. He could have walked, he had offers. But this was Rangers, and he wasn't raised to run. When the club was forced to re-enter football in the Scottish 3rd Division, it wasn't just a demotion, it was humiliation. From Champions League nights, to bus rides to Brecon. And yet, McCoist stood tall. He led Rangers to the 3rd Division title, 2012-13. The Scottish League 1 title, 2013-14, unbeaten across the season. But victories on the pitch didn't quiet the storm off it. Critics circled. The media questioned his transfer policy, his wage bill, his leadership. Cup defeats hurt. Boardroom feuds made headlines. The pressure was relentless. The expectations, impossible. Because McCoist wasn't just managing matches, he was carrying the soul of a broken club. He wasn't just a manager, he was a symbol. And symbols don't get to rest. In December 2014, after nearly 3 years of exhaustion, isolation, and internal chaos, McCoist tendered his resignation. It was accepted. And in 2015, he officially left Rangers. Not in triumph, not in disgrace, but in pieces. The man who had given everything had nothing left to give. When Ally McCoist walked away in 2015, he didn't hold a press conference. He didn't make a fuss. He just stepped aside, quietly, wounded, weary, but never bitter. He had carried Rangers through fire, and when it finally consumed him, he did what he'd always done. He picked himself up. But he didn't vanish. He reinvented. With his smile still sharp and his wisdom hard-earned, he returned to where the world had always loved him: the microphone. McCoist became one of football's most beloved voices. His commentary lit up. Amazon Prime, ITV's World Cup coverage, BT Sport, Sky Sports, and every room where fans wanted honesty over cliché. He called it straight. He laughed with viewers. And he never forgot where he came from. Even when he sparked controversy, like the 2021 Ofcom inquiry over fan chants, he stood his ground. He was cleared. Because his truth was never mean-spirited, it was real. And that's why people trust him. He didn't become a pundit to stay in the game. He became a pundit because the game never really left him. In 2024, the journey came full circle. McCoist was promoted to Officer of the Order of the British Empire, OBE, a national honor. Not just for what he did with a ball, but for what he stood for when the ball wasn't enough. From striker to symbol. From savior to storyteller. In the end, Ally McCoist won more than trophies. He won something rarer. He earned trust. He became the all-time top scorer at Rangers, 355 goals. He wore the shirt 581 times. He lifted league titles, cups, golden boots, and national pride. But his legacy isn't in numbers. It's in moments. Moments when others left. And he stayed. When Rangers fell, McCoist stood. When the club was humiliated, he held its dignity. When the weight became unbearable, he carried it anyway, until it broke him. Not because he was perfect, because he was loyal. He gave Rangers his youth. He gave them his goals. He gave them his voice. And when it all collapsed, he gave them his strength. Today, you hear him on your screens. A man still laughing, still telling stories, still loved by fans on both sides of every rivalry. Because McCoist was never just a footballer. He was a believer, a protector. A man who never walked away, even when he had every reason to. Some players are remembered for what they won. Ally McCoist will be remembered for what he stood for. Subscribe if you believe loyalty still matters in football, because in a sport of transfers and contracts, he was one of the last to bleed for a badge.